Okay, today we're going to talk about creating your first post processor for SURFCAM Evo. So as you can see here, I've started up the launcher, and I'm going to slide over to the right here 2 panes and go into our code wizard. The code wizard is going to allow us to define a new post processor. So when the code wizard pops up here, it's going to ask us whether we want to open an existing document or start a new document. We're going to start a new post. It immediately asks, is this going to be a lathe post or a mill? In our case, we're going to do a simple mill, and it's going to go to the system and it's going to look for all of the milling templates that are installed. It'll have a series of them available installed by default for things like a Siemens control, a TNC control, a Haydn Hermele, or a very simple ISO G code control. First, it's going to ask us to configure the machine. You have to do a rough configuration. In this case, I'm going to tell it whether it's a horizontal, a vertical, or a gantry. I'm going to make this a vertical. Does it have a rotary table or an additional rotary head? In this case, I'm just going to say no. I'm going to take the very basics, just make a real simple 3-axis machine. Do I have turning capability? Do I have any probing? Do I want to create a trunnion table? Any of that? In this case, the only box I'm going to tick here is the one that says load the default parametric graphics. So I want to bring in some default machine graphics with this. We've got a few more templates available in metric than we do in inch because a lot of the machine control manufacturers are built in metric. But in this case, I'm going to create an inch-based adaptive mill, which is an ISO controller. So just a generic ISO 3-axis vertical. Click OK. It says, welcome to the code wizard. Please enter the name that you wish to use for this machine. I'm going to say this is just going to be called Basic 3V. Okay, it's Basic 3-axis vertical. So now you're going to do the following steps. Configure machine by walking through the machine parameters, the format table, the code and modality, the constructors, and the M functions. You'll notice all of this is replicated over here, so you can change it later. Changing your machine parameters, your format table, your G codes and modality, your constructors, and your M functions. So I can just click Finish here and make any edits over here later, or I can walk through the wizard. We'll walk through the first step of the wizard, and you can see that it says, okay, am I in metric or in inch? What's my default extension? What are my arc planes? What's my maximum feed rate, my compensation? Do I allow G40 on retract? All kinds of things that I can set up. Next, it goes to my turret. What's my configuration? Do I want to change it for additional tool mounting positions? All kinds of information there. How is my spindle set up? What are my gearing setups so that I don't overdrive my machine? It helps me determine my machine limits. Same is going to be true for the format table and all the remainder, but in this case, I'm just going to click Finish. Bang. And I have my machine graphics here for a very simple 3-axis machine. So this is the code generator. This is my machine setup. In my machine setup, I can see, by picking on an axis and the position, I can say, show me my range. I go from -31 to 0 here. What's my range on my x-axis? You can see I've got a minimum and maximum. It can show me in my position from plus to -20. Okay. At this point in time, though, I'm just going to say I'm done, and I'm going to compile this machine. Okay. And it says, okay, before you compile this, you need to save this, and I'm going to save a code wizard file, the CGD. Now I believe I wanted to call this Basic 3V. I can save this file under a different name if I wanted to than the name of the machine, but I like to keep them the same. And I'm just going to click Save, and then it compiles this post processor. Now the fact that this post processor is compiled does not automatically mean that it's going to show up when I come back over here to Evo. It means that I've used the code wizard to generate a template for that graphically. That template controls the code, the machine graphics, and the machine kinematics. And now I've created a compiled version of that, which can then be installed into Evo. To install that new machine into Evo so that I can use it on this seat, I'm going to my Machine Manager. My Machine Manager manages what machines are installed on this seat. So here I have all of my machines, or just my turning machines, or just my milling machines, and you'll see I've got my samples here. Now, if I'm highlighted on one of these, I do have the ability to overwrite this, so be careful. If I come in here and go to Browse and browse for a different machine, I will overwrite what I have in this machine's slot. What I want to do here is I want to say I want to add a new machine, go to Browse, and it'll show me in this directory, my default directory, which is under my name, documents, Vero software, version number, SURFCAM, CAM, machine def, the machine that I just created called Basic 3V. I'm going to click on that, and it brings it in, and I can provide a little bit of information. This is just a generic ISO controller, so it's ISO or FNUC, whatever I want to put in here. That X range, it had a 40-inch throw there, and a 20 there, and I believe 31 on the Z. And I'm going to save that. And you'll notice now that machine is in my machine list in my Machine Manager. And I can close out of this. So now if I go into a part in Evo and I decide that I want to apply a machine here, let's just let it go through its setup. When I go to create sequence now for a milling sequence, you see that I have my samples, have one that I've got added earlier, and now I have my basic 3V. I'll just hop right through there quickly, and you'll notice that the machine graphics that I created for that machine, those generic machine graphics, and that machine are now part of my Evo environment. That's all there is to it, creating a new machine and installing it into Evo.